Today we're on the Crow Reservation in south central Montana. Going to be painting a fairly seemingly mundane scene. It's just kind of a field, some hills, a tree in there. But there's a reason why I'm painting this, is because there's a lot of subtlety in here. A lot of subtlety of greens. And also there's some beautiful wildflowers that I'd like to capture the color of. It's mainly though the subtlety of these greens that I see in here. I don't live around here, so when I get back home, you know, I could see me totally looking at the photo, and you know, photos just don't give me a lot of times what I need for color and value. And I do historical Native American work. Well, actually, as they say here on the reservation, I was just talking with a gentleman, a Crow of the Crow Nation, and they use the term Indian still, and I use the term around him, and he was totally fine with that. But anyway, so I think that these colors could be interesting to use for a future painting. So I might as well capture them on here. My name is Jason Tako. And if you could do me a favor, subscribe if you have not already. Hit the like button. That helps keep the algorithms happy. So there's some things we can do to make this interesting. What would seem to a lot of other people like a fairly mundane scene. Now, I know what's going on over here is that we have a stream in there. But I might just ignore that, at least to a certain degree, and put in change the footing a little bit of this scene. Put in some of these shrubs a little closer. I have a prairie dog town right behind me, and they are not too keen on my presence. So they're really calling out to their buddies. Hey, there's this dude standing over there painting. It's intensely bright out here. We have absolutely perfect sunshine. Flies on my shoulder, landing everywhere. But with this beautiful sunshine, it can make it a little challenging to see what's going on. Gonna have this come down and this up just a little bit. So I'm going to show part of this video to the YouTube public, and then if you want to watch the rest of it, become a Patreon supporter. Click on the link below. You can watch my videos in their entirety without commercial interruptions, $5 a month. I do have a number of other videos that are still available in their full-length version to the public. Some of them I'm going to migrate over when I get time. Okay, so let's look at this scene. We got in our darkest dark, and the most intense green that I'm seeing color-wise is actually on the trees. It's a very bright yellow green, like a springtime green. really quick, the colors on my palette: titanium white, nickel yellow, cadmium yellow light, cadmium orange, yellow ochre, transparent red oxide, cadmium red, alizarin crimson, ultramarine blue, cobalt blue, cerulean blue, viridian, and sap green. And over here I have Gamblin's Portland Gray Warm. So let's put in a little bit of this intense green, so I think it'll help us key things in. I was in the visitor center in Plein State Park. Plein was the last chief of the Crows. And one of the things I read in there is how they would, use nature as the inspiration for their beadwork and things like that. And that's why I think painting here on location, even if I don't use this exact seam, will be good for my paintings of Indians, because it's kind of using their philosophy. I am not at all. I get people ask me this: do you have any Native American in you, any Indian in you? It's like, nope, not a drop. But we can't change who we are. And I just like painting American Indians. So that's what I do. Okay, so we have some of our stronger green to key off of. Let's get a little bit of that in here as well. I might need to modify that later on. But that gives us a starting point. You always have to start somewhere. And for that intense green, just use some cadmium yellow light, viridian, a bit of yellow ochre, a bit of sap green. At least I think I did. Those combinations will work pretty well. All right, so let's do some of the foreground. I see a green in there that's almost as intense as the green that we put up in the trees, but it's a little darker in value. And that's how you want to constantly be talking to yourself when you're painting. It's a pretty warm green, which means that it leans more toward the yellow. Green, of course, is a secondary color comprised, pure green comprised of blue and yellow. So a cool green is going to lean more toward blue, and a warm green is going to lean more toward yellow. And then you have the neutralizing element of green, which is basically adding red to it, or some version of red, and that's going to neutralize it so it's not so intense. Just go ahead and scrub that in there. Now that I have a base color, this base color is not entirely correct, and I know that, but it's somewhat close. It gives me something to modify. So let's go back in and get that green in there. I think it can go a little bit darker. Sorry, I have horse flies or deer flies that have found me. It's a very nice, beautiful day here. Talked with a gentleman over at Plein Park, and he said every day is beautiful here. And these people certainly have a strong connection with the land, which is great. And I can't blame them. It's beautiful here. All right. Now within the screen, I'm seeing, now a novice would say, well, I see the tops of the weeds and not sure what color they are. I see the tops of the weeds too, but I don't call them the tops of the weeds. I see a shape of color, and that shape of color is a warm, light value, leaning towards ochre. So let's add some white and yellow ochre in. Now it's slightly pinker, at least it looks to me right now. Let's put some of that right here. I also see some spots where this gets darker. So let's do less white, a little more ochre, a little more cadmium red. It's maybe slightly too intense. So let's tone that down a bit. You don't have to put this color everywhere you see it. We're just taking notes right now. I want to put some definitely right above this darker green, because it's that lighter value that makes it look darker green. I know you guys probably can't hear it, but I just love hearing the red-winged blackbirds in the background. I grew up in rural Minnesota, and we had them all over there in the summertime. That sound is, for me, one of the quintessential sounds of summer. Okay, squint at the scene. As I squint at the scene, I need more of this in here. This ground plane is a bit lighter in value overall, which we would expect. This ground plane, I think for this painting to succeed, is we have to remember the whole thing of angles and consequent values, where usually, in most cases, the ground plane is going to be lighter in overall value than the hill. So it makes a hill look like a hill. It's a little too intense. That's why you like using this Gamblin's Portland Gray Warm. If you need to kind of desaturate a lighter value color, it's really good for doing that. There's a little bit of sage in there. I'd like to get that color in. Sage is incredibly elusive. Now, when I look at the sage, it's basically cool. It looks like a very cool green, but it's not super green. You don't want to use like Viridian and white. It's got to be toned down somewhat. Maybe a little bit more ochre in there. Those prairie dogs are really going to town. No pun intended. That was a bad pun. That was a good pun. Just because, for those of you who do not know, the prairie dogs build their homes in groupings that they call towns. So I actually did not mean for that to come out like that, but it did. Bad humor, I know. If you think I should stop this and become a stand-up comedian, leave a comment below. Okay, something I like to do it with grasses and certain vegetation, block in the main shapes and colors, and then do some scrape down. All right, so let's clean up the palette a bit. Gonna go for the background hills in here. So I'm going to take this to my Patreon supporters. Thanks for watching up to this point. If you want to continue watching this, become a Patreon supporter, click on the link below. I also teach live online painting classes. I do have sample videos of those on my channel, so go check those out. There's information there on how to sign up if you'd like to study under me. Some of the best teaching you're going to get, especially live and online. We paint together as a group. Anyway, give me a thumbs up and leave a comment, question below, and we'll see you again. Thanks for watching.